We've been talking in class about how the Song of Roland takes us into this sort of holy war trope of a particular brand of epic. Here, in this case, of course, the French national epic about the court of Charlemagne and the really great, humiliating loss at the Battle of Rosenbow. But the point I want to make here is that with the Saracens clearly set as satanic, very often described both in their appearance, where they come from. This idea of being from a land where every rock is black. There's no dew, it doesn't rain. This idea of the Saracens literally being from hell, at least some of them. This is in counterposition to the court, of course, of Charlemagne, where we have Roland and the 12 peers, sometimes called the 12 paladins, who clearly evoke this image where Charlemagne is rather like God the Father, and his nephew Roland is cast as a Christ-like figure who even sacrifices himself. And the fact that he has these 12 peers who go to battle with him, who hold the rear guard against attack. This really emphasizes this notion of holy war, and the fact that Roland then dies under a tree, propped up against a tree. It doesn't require too much imagination to see how Roland and the 12 peers are cast really as Christ and his disciples, and Charlemagne is the God the Father figure, and Ganelon, the jealous uncle of Roland, is the Judas figure who betrays him for money. It really doesn't require much imagination to see this. But this is really valuable because when we see that the court of Charlemagne is set up as this sort of force, this earthly force for the will of God, right? The fact that even when Roland dies, several of the things that happen, the idea of the storm, the idea of the earthquake, this is all taken from both scripture and from medieval tradition about the death of Christ. But what's really important about this, in terms of this idea of cosmic battle, is many times students will point out to me, well, these people are supposed to be Christians, right? So how is it that it's acceptable to kill with impunity? Sometimes they even kill with joy, like Archbishop Turpin, who happily goes into battle and kills as many Saracens as he can. But he talks about them in these overtly demonic terms, and that's really getting to the rub. When we construe our enemy as not just the other, but the satanic, demonic other, the way the Saracens are described in the Song of Roland, then we really get to a point where this idea of holy war makes a lot of sense. It gives the audience the opportunity to take joy in the death and destruction of the Saracens. And then when we take this poem and look at it in historical context and realize that it's really talking about historical battle that has nothing really to do with religious conflict whatsoever, we begin to see how this trope of holy war is a powerful way to reimagine history through the lens of our own desires and expectations and our own sense of what is right and good. And one of the most valuable things to think about when we're reading the Song of Roland and we're understanding it in these terms is to look at the way that we view our own world, the way we view those who are our allies, those who we construe as our enemies. Because the point's been made a million times that when we view the other as alien, as different, it becomes easier to hate, to fight, even to kill. But when we construe the other as overtly satanic, as the armies of the evil one, in clear and unambiguous terms, and our own forces as those of right and good and light, then these battles not only make sense, then they become a moral imperative. And that's really at the heart of this trope of holy war that we're beginning to examine when we look at the Song of Roland.